In this golf bag I have a club from Callaway that's going to cause a lot of controversy because it's called the Odyssey Max 1 and Max 1 Stripe, but you could also call it a LAB DF3. Let's get into it, let's talk about it. Is it better? Is it not maybe as good? And who might purchase it? Now we have two new zero torque putters out from Odyssey, and we have the Max Stripe, we have the Max 1 putter, but they look very similar to that putter that's just been on screen. And the big talking point for me when it comes to these putters is that Odyssey are the #1 selling putter, so they have the biggest market share of putters sold, closely followed by Scotty Cameron, and then in at 3 is LAB. So LAB have certainly come into the putting area of golf, and they've certainly changed the outlook. And Odyssey have obviously looked at their putters, saw how well they're doing, because they've taken over the likes of Ping, the likes of TaylorMade on the list. And this was the first putter that came out that has done exceptionally well, and they've brought new models out since then. So it'll be very interesting today to get out here and test it, because obviously these putters, zero torque, I think are revolutionary for beginner golfers, for mid-handicap golfers, and how potentially you could get your handicap down. And obviously when it comes to LAB, one of the big things is price point. So price point, we know they're around about $600 in the US. We know you've got multiple options. We've got the Mez 1, we've got the Oz 1i, we've got the Oz 1, we've got the DF3, which is this is very similar to, and we've got a couple of other models out from LAB, and they've all been good sellers, and they've all caused a lot of chatter, not only on YouTube but also on the major tours around the world. But now Odyssey maybe haven't gone under the radar with this, they've gone extremely similar, which is interesting because we know Callaway a couple of months ago did bring out a golf ball that was very similar to the Tour Response, the Stripe golf ball from TaylorMade. But after all, Callaway were the first one to come up with the Pix idea. So they had the True Viz golf ball, and Callaway have always been an industry leader. And now they're thinking, well, we've got a zero torque, we've brought out some normal looking putters in my opinion. So we've got the Jailbird, we also have the double wide, and we have the number 7 in this square to square range. But now they've gone for something that is obviously very similar to the company that's leading probably the zero torque market. But what is your opinion? Get in those comments below. Because yes, there are companies that come out and they do bring change to golf. And we've seen that with Tacoma, they've certainly done it in the irons department, even maybe some of the woods that players are using, like the Brian Bros and Grant Horvat. But LAB have certainly changed putting. So a lot of companies are now bringing out zero torque putters. We've seen recently on the channel, PXG have brought another edition out in the Bat Attack putter. The first edition was the Allen putter, and Callaway have gone to that as well. So like we've mentioned earlier, we've had the double wide, we've had the 7, and we've also had the Jailbird, which was an incredibly popular putter in the last couple of years. So a lot of these companies are bringing them out. Bettinardi, we've also seen Even Roll. But have you got one in your golf bag? And so far, how have you found it? Because for me, it takes a little bit of maybe the skill out of putting. You don't have to maybe think too much. The putter's already set into a certain angle. We just think that, right, I've got to turn back, turn through, get the ball rolling. And I think this will help at least 75% of golfers if they went to this putter. You could potentially lower your scores, but is this putter better than the LAB version that it's very similar to? Now, we know when it comes to the AI square to square Max Stripe and the Max 1, a lot of technology in there. So alignment aids, again, we have the visual of that white stripe down this version, but we do have the classic white hot face, which has always been loved by Odyssey players. But if I now bring in this LAB DF3, again, very similar looking shape. We know we have the hole cut out there, again part of the technology in this putter. We have a different alignment aid on the front, and we have borrowed this off Kia here in the shop at Lindrick, because we do fit these putters here at the golf club. But also we have a very soft face. That's one thing that I found from my Mez 1. So a lot of technology in both putters, but how do they match up against each other? Now we'll take it in turns here to hit different shots, but this is where, for me, obviously this is going to help a lot of golfers, because the square-to-square technology, the LAB technology, the zero torque technology is designed to keep that putter face a little bit squarer throughout the motion, so there's less deviation into impact. So this is where, for me, we have to be obviously quite consistent to hold these putts, whether we've missed a green and chipped up to here, or whether it's for a birdie. Again, just leak to the right, underpaced, a good roll on there, and this is one big thing I've seen from zero torque putters, whether we've been testing the PXGs or any other putters, we've certainly seen the roll is consistent. It might highlight a few problems in your putting style or your putting routine. But obviously when we talk about price for this putter, it is $100 more than previous generations, and a lot of that could be down to potential tariffs from the USA. But there's one big thing that is a little bit different with the Odyssey putter. And it's something I thought I saw on the internet that they had changed, but on the putters that we've got to test today, it's not different. We know PXG have changed their grip because LAB's grip was potentially the first of its kind with that forward press, or the press grip. It already gets us into a nice solid position without trying to forward press that. And for me, it gets you into a more natural position. I don't feel like I have to forward press it. And this is what I said in the original review of the first zero torque or square to square putters from Callaway. I thought they brought a grip out, but this is a standard grip. So when I set that club behind the ball, I can see a lot of that white hot face. I actively feel like I've got to put a big forward press on that, and it starts to put me off slightly. But it rolls well, and it's hold the same amount as the DF3. But how will it do on distance? Now if we talk about price before we test it for pace, you can see obviously on the internet we can go through here, a lot of them are from Clubhouse Golf, but if we're talking Clubhouse Golf, we've got the original Jailbird, the number 7 and the double wide at £249. If we stick with Clubhouse Golf, we then see that we've got the Odyssey AI1 Max Stripe at £329. So not quite £100 more, but still a big jump into that putter. And for me, one of the biggest things Odyssey had was those traditional looking putters in the zero torque range that I thought was their niche. But it's very interesting what they've done. If we talk about LAB putters, we know that Scottsdale Golf here in the UK are the main seller of those, and we can see the range. The Oz 1i comes in at $499. If we talk about the DF3, we're up at $539, and if we go into the Link 1, the traditional LAB putter, £479. So we certainly have different options. You will also see another LAB Oz 1 in at $549, but that's because it doesn't have the insert face, so a little bit more expensive. So still over £200 more than the Odyssey, but which one's going to come out on top? So if we look at them behind the golf ball, both very similar looking, but for me, you can just see a little bit of that white hot face, whereas depending on that LAB, so both very similar looking behind the golf ball. So it's a big decision. Which one would you be going if you're going to save £200? Now, one big thing we know with the Odysseys is we do have that white hot face, which we all know how it feels. We know it feels relatively soft, and you know exactly from distance exactly what you're going to feel. For me, when I first tried a LAB putter out, I was surprised how soft these putters feel, and again from this DF3, certainly soft off the face. But if we talk about obviously the looks of these putters, it's not the first time and it won't be the last time that putters are very similar looking, because we've seen that obviously when you think about the Ping Answer putter, we know now most of you will be thinking of Scotty Cameron Newport, and that's because the patent ran out for Ping with those putters. Then other companies could provide those putters, and then we've seen that Ping have slipped down that list. And you think now, Ping are 5th and LAB are 3rd, and you would never have thought 10 years ago that a brand new company into this market would take that kind of market share. So for me, I've used an Odyssey for a long time. I've used a Rossi putter with the white hot face for many a year, so I know exactly how this putter feels. So for me, straight away, I would like to think that my pace control would be pretty good. But now we're thinking about pace, because we're not thinking about the face, we're not thinking about keeping it square, we're not thinking about releasing that putter, arcing that putter, because the zero torque element of these putters has probably taken this out of your mind. And this is where, for me, these putters are so great for beginner golfers, mid-handicap golfers, and even your better players, your tour players, your scratch players. And I think, obviously, like we said, Odyssey have done a very similar shape. It's not the first, they won't be the last company to obviously do a very similar shape. I think they could improve that grip, but performance wise, pretty good. Exactly what we're expecting. That's going to be two puts there from outside of that range where we expect on tour for you to 3-putt. Now, how will that DF3 do? I'm going to say it's going to be very similar, but this is where you decide. Are you wanting to save £200 and go for that Odyssey? Are you somebody who's used Odyssey for many years and you're used to that white hot face? At the end of the day, it's not only down to performance, but it's also down to price and your budget. They're pretty good. We'd take that all day long. I certainly prefer the original square-to-square putters. I think if they can get the grip changed, just like PXG have done recently, I think at that price point, they are ticking a lot of boxes. I would say that's going to be 4 2-putts, which would take our strokes gained down. That would obviously lower our scores. So 2 different options here. Certainly something to think about. But guys, get in those comments below. Would you be testing out this Odyssey Max putter, or would you pay that little bit more and go for the 3rd biggest company in the putter market and go for that zero torque LAB?